Ethiopia warns of Eritrean aggression as the tensions rise in the Horn of Africa. Hello and welcome. I'm Sina Igzau, and this is Analytica Today. Today, we're turning our attention into a growing crisis in the Horn of Africa. The Ethiopian government has issued a strong diplomatic warning against Eritrea, accusing it of the aggressive acts that could destabilize the entire region. In a formal letter dated June 20th, 2025, Ethiopia's Foreign Minister, Gideon Timotheos, addressed the US Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. The message was clear and direct. Eritrea is threatening Ethiopia's sovereignty, violating international law, and actively working to sow discord inside the country. Now, why is this letter significant? It represents a major shift in Ethiopia's diplomatic tone. While tensions between the two countries have been simmering for some time, this is the first time in years that Ethiopia has laid out such detailed and public accusation. And the picture it paints is deeply concerning. According to the letter, Eritrea has engaged in a series of coordinated provocations. These previously included banning Ethiopian Airlines flights, freezing Ethiopian assets, cutting off telecom links, and perhaps, and most seriously, supporting armed groups inside Ethiopia. But it doesn't stop there. Ethiopia says Eritrea is working hand in hand with a hardline faction of the TPLF. Ethiopia says that Eritrea is working hand in hand with a hardline faction of the TPLF. Yes, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, as well as militias in the Amhara region like Fano. This comes just a few years after the two countries signed the Pretoria Agreement in 2022, which was meant to end Tigray conflict and restore peace in the north. Eritrea was a key factor in that war, fighting alongside Ethiopian forces. But since the ceasefire, Asmara's behavior has raised alarm bells. Ethiopia says Eritrean troops never fully withdrew. Instead, they've remained in parts of Tigray and continue to carry out violent acts, including attacking on civilians. There are even reports, as detailed in international investigations, of mass sexual violence in areas under Eritrean control. In a particularly sharp section of the letter, Gideon points out a speech made by Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki on May 24th. In that speech, Afwerki reportedly signaled his intent to keep interfering in Ethiopia's internal affairs, including supporting supervision and fueling ethnic strife. And here's the most alarming part. Ethiopia says Eritrea isn't acting alone. The letter describes what it calls unrelenting coordination between Eritrea and the TPLF faction and other armed groups. Coordination aimed at launching fresh attacks during the upcoming rainy season. Even with all this, Ethiopia insists that it's exercising maximum restraint. It says it still wants to resolve these tensions peacefully through diplomacy and dialogue. But it also makes it clear that it has the right to defend its sovereignty using all means available under international law. So where does this leave things? Ethiopia is now calling on the international community and especially the United States to pressure Eritrea to pull back. That means withdrawing troops from Ethiopian territory, ending support for militias, and stopping what Ethiopia calls proxy warfare. But this situation goes beyond just two countries. There are larger strategic concerns at play. Ethiopia, a landlocked nation, has been pushing for sea access, looking at ports in Djibouti, Somaliland, and even Eritrea itself. That's raised tensions with Eritrea, which sees Ethiopia's maritime ambitions as a direct threat. There are also fears that Eritrea's action could drag in other regional players like Egypt or Sudan and trigger a wider conflict in the Horn of Africa. For now, the Ethiopian government says it remains committed to peace, but it also warning that the situation is becoming increasingly dangerous and that time is running out. So what happens next? That depends on how the region and the international community responds. Will diplomatic pressure work, or are we witnessing the early stages of a renewed confrontation between Ethiopia and Eritrea?